Have you ever been shocked by someone's anger toward you? We've all been there. An unexpected situation where you actually feel attacked because their anger is so vehement. But the catch here is that it's not just anger, it's the situation. The situation didn't qualify this kind of anger, and it's left us nonplussed. We're flabbergasted that a friend, a coworker has basically laid into us. And their anger is so strong that you can't talk to them. You can't actually understand what the issue is because it's all about their anger. There are two takeaways I want you to understand with this misplaced anger. The first aspect is that people who use this kind of anger toward you or situation is toward us, because if it were a situation, it wouldn't be misplaced. The first takeaway is that understand they chose anger because they don't have enough emotional choices in their toolbox. Meaning that instead of being angry, they could tell you they're upset, they could tell you they're mad, disappointed, God forbid betrayed, because that's one of the worst. But there are choices they can feel and express to you that aren't anger. What happens when you express yourself to the other person vehemently in anger, everybody shuts down. That person can't hear you. You can't hear what they're saying. You just feel their anger. The second takeaway is I want you to learn how to choose another emotion. Try to wait a couple of days. My therapist had me wait a week because I had anger issues growing up. I was in therapy for 30 years, and I learned how to build my toolbox. And that's what's happening with people. They don't have enough emotional tools in their toolbox to make a better choice. The other thing that you're not going to want to do, and you may not understand it, is eventually fall on the sword. Because in a situation where there's misplaced anger, there really are two parties. And I played into part of that anger of hers. Short backstory. It's simply a situation of watering our community garden. I was absolutely overwhelmed because I'm creating a new empire. I work with a very harassing situation as a consultant. And then somehow or another, I got shouldered with a lot of volunteer duties at our garden. When I was talking to another Valerie, about this, she was giving me all these choices for her, which I didn't have. I really didn't want to make a choice. I didn't want to do scheduling. And I called her up and I said something that was very vulnerable. And she jumped on the bandwagon to help me, I thought, but I never heard from her as far as reaching out to other people. Now let's just get to the situation of the garden. When we get to the garden Saturday morning, she just tears into me. And again, this is really, forget about the fact of what happened. It's the anger. And I finally said to her, after she was going on for so long, I looked at her and I said, really? You're choosing anger toward me to resolve this situation? Then she got angrier. I'm like, oh my God, I'm going back to my monarch and milkweeds. Though there was no way to resolve it. She wanted to be angry, and that's something for you to understand. People who don't have emotional choices in their toolbox, they're going to choose anger. For whatever reason, it makes them feel powerful. That's the only thing they know. They haven't had therapy. They don't want to resolve the situation. They just want to be mad. That's where it stands, and that's where it's going to stay, because I'm not at the point where I want to fall on the sword yet. And that means I will take accountability for my actions. And what I did that wasn't appropriate is I vented with her. And one of the things my therapist taught me, ask permission. If you are upset about something or you want to share something that happened at work or another incident, when you call that person, ask them, I had something happen. Could I vent? Could I vent with you? Because I thought we had established that boundary. Obviously not. When I don't feel so hurt myself and I don't hold grudges, but I am hurt by her actions and her words, I will simply fall on the sword and I will take accountability for the fact that I vented without her permission. That's it for misplaced anger. I want you to understand to find other emotions. There's an article in my podcast details from Psychology Today. The research says we have 7 emotions. I don't believe that. I believe we have many, many, many more levels of emotions for which we can express ourselves. One person said we had 27,000. But anyway, the idea is build your toolbox. Anger is not the way to resolve things. Name calling isn't either. Now, if you are having issues with anger and you don't know how to change from that, there's a really great Kriya in the podcast details. It's 3 minutes. Yes, it's my favorite yoga teacher, Howard Prakash. It's called Fists of Anger. I probably did this for 2 years straight during the pandemic because there was so much anger in the world. Check that out because it really will work. I also put an amazing new practice. I'm studying Jujitsu. I have a friend who is studying it. She's teaching classes. She doesn't want to go out there in the world yet. But it's amazing. It really works with your hands. It works with all your fingers. The class was so good, I fell asleep. Yeah. That's how good it was, how relaxing it was. And I was on camera. I woke up and I went, well, at least nobody's making fun of me for falling asleep. And I finished the class with her wide awake. But I did take myself off camera in case I fell asleep again. Thank God I don't snore. At least now while I'm doing Jiu-Jitsu. Well, check both of those links out because they're very, very powerful ways to make incremental changes in your life. Remember, try something different. Lastly, with wine, I mentioned in the last podcast how one of my favorite industry newsletters, but it's also written for the general public, made some comments that South African wines are underappreciated by people in America. That is not true. I've sold a lot of really exquisite South African wines. There are wines by the Robertson family. Everybody drinks them. Excelsior is the name of the wine. It's the Robertson family. They make inexpensive quaffers. They're sustainable. But I put on this podcast details, I put Kundalini wines because the woman who creates these wines is from France, very famous Bordeaux owner. Found this property. She wanted to, this is amazing, she wanted to expand her wine producing experiences, and she found this land in South Africa, in the Cape Town area. Kundalini is the name of the vineyards. She has several statuses, layers of different wines. She has the glass collection. She has a premium collection. She was 84 when she did this. I actually don't know if she's still alive. I couldn't find any information about her, but the wines are still being produced because it's a large estate. She has plenty of staff to continue in her name, but she also is very famous for her glass collection, and that's actually a name of one of her levels of wines that she produces. The glass collection is phenomenal too. They date back to 1800. Wrap this up. Anger, don't let that be your choice. Don't let it rule your life. It's bitter. There's nothing good about using anger. Think of some other words to use. Disappointed, sad. Yeah, you could even be mad, but don't be angry. Don't say mean things that you're going to regret. Work on this Kriya because it really, really, really works. Now, it can take anywhere from 40 to 90 days to practice it every day, but you'll be surprised. Anger is not going to be your first emotion when something tips the scale for you. And lastly, truly check out Kundalini. It's an amazing estate. You can Google it and find out where you can buy her wines. The top line is about $20 some odd. Very affordable wines. In conclusion, I'm Valerie Hale. I produce this podcast once a week to help people improve their mindset. Because remember, thoughts become things, choose the good ones. I also teach online speaking courses, so check that out in the podcast details. Merci, et au revoir.